On July 6, 2019, Jeffrey Epstein stepped off a private jet at Teterboro Airport and walked straight into a trap. In a matter of hours, he was stripped of a multi-million-dollar empire of luxury and influence, handed a generic prison uniform, and reduced to Bureau of Prisons number 76318-054. Exactly 35 days later, the world's most notorious inmate was found hanging in his maximum security cell. Without clear public information, millions of people concluded that Epstein had been assassinated to protect the secrets of the global elite.
This search for a physical footprint led to a quiet city in Israel.
The passage of the Epstein Files Transparency Act declassified 3 million pages of internal records, video logs, and investigative files. This evidence, combined with a New York Times investigation, brought forward guards and inmates who had never previously spoken to the press or the government. These unsealed records reveal a sequence of institutional failures that left the door wide open for a man who desperately wanted to die. To understand how he died, you have to look at where he lived. In 2019, the Metropolitan Correctional Center was a brutalist concrete monolith plagued by operational failure. It was freezing in the summer, stiflingly hot in the winter, and staffed by exhausted guards working forced 16-hour shifts. Because Epstein was initially placed in the general population, other inmates targeted and extorted him within days. This forced the warden to move him to the Special Housing Unit, or the SHU, for his own protection. The SHU is a punitive isolation block where inmates are locked down 23 hours a day. By using this psychologically damaging space for protective custody, the jail accelerated the mental collapse of a high-risk inmate already facing a lifetime behind bars. Epstein spent hours with his lawyers searching for leverage he could trade for leniency, specifically obsessing over finding dirt on Donald Trump. But his notes were empty of actual secrets, containing only vague claims that Trump was a con artist with no real money. His private writings revealed a fracturing mind. Jail investigators missed a handwritten suicide note Epstein had wedged inside a graphic novel in his cell. Written with private family catchphrases, he stated that moving forward would be only pain and not very much fun. He had already attempted to end his life once. His cellmate, Efren Reyes, woke up one night to find Epstein fidgeting with a makeshift noose torn from a bedsheet. Reyes stopped him and pleaded with jail staff to keep Epstein supervised, but Reyes was soon transferred to a private facility. Jail management ignored the chief psychologist's formal order that Epstein must have a cellmate at all times. On August 9th, corrections officers noted his cell was empty, but no one moved to replace Reyes or increase supervision.
The empty cell was the result of clerical apathy, leaving a man with a documented history of suicidal tendencies entirely alone in a room with his own bedding. Hardware failures in the SHU had disabled 9 of the unit's 11 cameras. Replacement hard drives had actually arrived at the jail that very morning, but no one had installed them, leaving nearly the entire cell block unmonitored. At 10:40 p.m., one functional camera recorded a blurry orange shape moving up the stairs toward Epstein's tier. This single frame fueled years of assassination theories regarding a killer slipping into the unit. The Justice Department Inspector General later determined that this shape was Officer Tova Noel, carrying orange inmate linens up the stairs to pull from the jail's supply. The guards assigned to Epstein were fundamentally ill-equipped for the night. Tova Noel was chronically sleep-deprived from forced overtime, while her partner, Michael Thomas, was a laundry worker filling in for extra pay. Neither guard moved from their desk for nearly 2 hours. While they slept, the inmate in the adjacent cell heard the distinct sound of bedsheets violently tearing through the wall for 10 straight minutes. When Thomas finally discovered the body at 6:30 a.m., the response was chaotic. Paramedics trampled the room, forensic teams failed to collect DNA, and staff accidentally threw the actual weight-bearing noose into the garbage. The loss of the primary noose was a consequence of raw panic and procedural failure that permanently contaminated the historical record. While an autopsy observer hired by the family pointed to broken neck bones as evidence of strangulation, 9 independent pathologists disagreed. In older victims, kneeling forward into a noose from a lower bunk frame provides enough weight to snap those specific bone structures.
A professional hit would have required bypassing biometric locks, securing multiple sets of guarded physical keys, and a massive network of conspirators willing to face the federal death penalty. The reality of August 9th is that multiple supervisors ignored explicit warnings about a suicidal man, then locked him alone in a room full of unmonitored bedsheets. The system failed its primary duty, and in the resulting chaos, the world was denied the justice of a trial.
For years, Epstein operated entirely outside the boundaries of consequence. Governments whispered about his influence, and investigators chased down rumors, but he remained insulated from the law. Then, his fortune reversed. In a single morning, authorities launched a series of coordinated raids, seizing his assets and taking him into custody before his network could react. He was transported to a maximum security prison designed to hold the world's highest-profile targets. Every corridor was locked down, every entrance guarded, and every movement logged. For the first time, a trial seemed certain. The public saw a billionaire cornered in a concrete box, facing a lifetime behind bars, from which his wealth offered no exit. But the trial never happened. Breaking news alerts interrupted television broadcasts globally with an official statement. Epstein had taken his own life inside his cell. The response was remarkably swift. Within hours, authorities declared the investigation complete. Media outlets repeated the final conclusion, and the global public moved on. Yet, as the news cycle shifted, a small group of independent investigators kept looking at the facts. They noticed that the official timeline moved with a suspicious lack of friction. The narrative provided a neat ending for our global audience, which is exactly why investigators began to look closer at the evidence. To understand the doubt, we have to set aside the televised reports and look directly at the unsealed investigation files and incident logs from that night. The initial discrepancy appears in the prison's surveillance network. Critical camera footage pointing directly toward Epstein's cell block vanished. Next, we find contradictions in human observation. Authorized personnel working that shift remember the sequence of events differently from one another. Then, the paperwork itself breaks down. Standard prison records detailing the barg rotations for that date became unavailable due to a series of bureaucratic errors. This facility relies on 3 independent security layers: cameras, guards, and logs. When these systems fail at the exact same moment, it's called systemic concurrency. The probability of this chance overlap is extremely low. Simultaneous failure of every measure points toward a deliberate operation. Once the security blackouts are viewed as intentional, the scattered reports from the medical and visitor logs take on a different meaning. Facility entry logs from that night list several visitors who were processed, yet their identities were never documented in the final report. Furthermore, independent reviews of the medical observations and the subsequent autopsy reveal timelines that contradict the official schedule of the death. These human and biological inconsistencies align with the logistical requirements of a covert extraction. This leads investigators to a new premise. The missing tapes, systemic blackouts, and conflicting timelines provided the necessary cover for a single successful operation. The theory suggests that the body discovered inside that maximum security cell was not Epstein. By feeding the media a perfectly wrapped death narrative, he convinced billions of people to stop looking. The investigation now follows the trail of a man who officially ceased to exist. Breaking out of a maximum security prison requires enormous resources, but escaping the attention of history requires vanishing while the world is watching. That leaves only one question: where did the billionaire go?
The official story of Epstein ends with a prison cell, a reported suicide, and a closed government investigation. This documentary explores a fictional theory where that ending was only the beginning of a second chapter. Years after the case was sealed, independent researchers flagged a series of isolated financial transactions linked to his known associates. By connecting these individual data points, a map emerged, linking financial transfers to encrypted communications and private aviation records that officially led nowhere. Maintaining this level of coordinated activity across multiple continents requires an active, continuously funded infrastructure and a rigid corporate architecture. Investigators soon began to suspect they were looking at a system engineered specifically to facilitate a permanent disappearance. To maintain invisibility, the first requirement is a system that allows wealth to flow across borders without leaving a name. This search for a physical footprint led to a quiet city in Israel, where rumors spoke of a heavily fortified compound hidden in plain sight. Despite persistent reports of his presence within the city, there are no photographs, no government records, and no official confirmations that he was ever there. The compound is located in a geographic blind spot, where private security and high walls effectively separate the property from the oversight of the surrounding world. Investigators also looked at Epstein's private island, following a theory that the guests were brought there specifically to be recorded in compromising situations. The investigation suggests that vulnerable individuals were secretly transported to the island to facilitate the compromise of influential politicians, high-profile celebrities, and prominent business leaders. Every interaction on the island was allegedly cataloged, leaving participants surrounded by a web of recorded secrets used as leverage. The world's most powerful people were incentivized to protect Epstein's secret.
as his exposure would inevitably lead to their own. By involving the global elite in these activities, the billionaire ensured that his disappearance was maintained by the very people responsible for upholding the law. Today, the search has hit a wall of missing witnesses, of silent governments, and contradictory documents. A typical prison break involves bypassing physical bars. In this case, the objective was the erasure of an entire historical footprint. Ultimate power is the ability to vanish into a life of luxury and wait for the world to eventually forget your name. These funds flow from a central trust into 5 distinct shell corporations, which are then used to purchase luxury properties. These transaction lines converge on a single endpoint, a highly secure estate located in an Israeli city. The identity attached to this financial network belongs to Epstein, the billionaire whose death was recorded as a suicide years ago. This active financial footprint presents a choice. We are either watching a ghost execute international trade, or the official record of his death is a fabrication. Epstein operated as an exclusive broker of secrets for the global elite, building his fortune on the collection of sensitive, private information. Following his high-profile arrest and maximum security confinement, the media declared the case closed after he was found dead in his cell. This finalized narrative from the authorities stands in direct contrast to the modern, active financial anomalies we see today. We are here to examine the logistical mechanics required for a high-profile prisoner to remove himself from the historical record while remaining alive. The events in his cell on the night of his supposed death suggest a series of engineered security failures rather than an accident. Security protocols were suspended exactly when they were needed most. These gaps in the guard logbook align perfectly with the destruction of surveillance footage from that hallway. During this specific window of camera failure, unidentified visitors were granted access to the high-security facility. After the announcement, the authorities and the media focused entirely on the suicide narrative, leaving the logistical failures of the prison unexamined. Intelligence agencies use redirection to halt public scrutiny by providing a sensational, definitive ending to a story. This distraction provided the time necessary to move Epstein into a network of forged identities and private security contractors. By convincing the world he was already dead, the architects of this plan ensured the public would stop looking for him. Proving Epstein is alive remains difficult because the system actively prevents the truth from surfacing. We see an information maze in the data. For every leaked document that points to his survival, a contradictory file is released to muddy the trail. Databases are scrubbed and witnesses disappear the moment independent investigators begin to follow the money trail. When wealth and leverage reach these proportions, a person can operate outside the boundaries of the legal system and the public record. This silhouette, captured in a recent intelligence intercept at a foreign port, matches Epstein's height, gait, and profile.